we've certainly documented that he was not in a hurry to compliment Brock Glenn at any point. Like, it was not his favorite thing to do. And if he did, there was always a caveat. There was always, well, and Luke's working really hard too. And we would point that out, that it seemed odd that he was never able to just leave it be. Just, hey, here's a nice thing about Brock Glenn. There's no caveat. I'm just telling you, this is a nice thing. He could never do it, you know? The more it went on, the more I thought two things were at play. The first was that Brock doesn't play well in practice. So he was hesitant to say great things about a guy that on a weekly basis he doesn't feel all that good about because of the ups and downs in practice. Brock has good practices. He also has really bad practices. What he doesn't have is consistent performance. So I could see where the coach would be like, okay, I don't know. Like, you catch me on Wednesday, I'll probably tell you I feel good. But on Monday, I'll probably tell you, nah, not real good. You know, it's just like depending on how he was that day. So there was that. But really, I think he's juggling the idea that his quarterback could transfer, that whoever doesn't win the job or doesn't have upper hand when this season ends, the other is gone. I know that you shouldn't have to worry about that, especially when one of the players is a true freshman. You know, that's frustrating to have to worry about that when a player is a true freshman. But the reality of today's transfer world, NIL world, is that if a player is pretty good, or if a player was heavily recruited, those teams don't stop recruiting them just because they go somewhere else. If you play Luke, or if Luke has some good practices at all, he's got enough ammunition to decide that the situation's not for him if he doesn't win the job. He can just leave.
Yeah. Can I say, if he wants to go as a true freshman, F him and let him go? Like, let him.
You can say it, Tom, but you can't get in. I mean, this is the quandary coaches find themselves in. That, you know, and I know that kid's talented.
Sure.
I don't know how good he's going to be as a quarterback.
He's a true freshman. My God. You know, this is the thing. Like, I think that there are going to be opportunities for him before the season's over. I do
too. And I would make those opportunities, by the way.
Sure. But like, if you are 6 games into your career at Florida State and you have put out those signals, or I'm getting that feeling as the head coach, I mean, my God, it's 6 games in your career. I don't know that I could trust you to lead my program. If you are getting to the point where you're so put off, we're working on you for the benefit of the long term. Like, for example, over in Austin, in Texas, the Mannings made it very clear.
Yeah, they didn't want him to play.
That Arch was not going to play in his first year, that it was in his best interest. Like, even if there was an emergency situation, and they pretty much were on the brink of it last year with Ewers going down and their backup quarterback was hurt at one point. So people are thinking, oh, true freshman Arch, it's his time. It's destiny. That family said, no, we are protecting his long-term development. He's got to get up to speed. Man, if you're telling me that this is the opposite approach, and like, because we're having some awful, awful failures, I grant you, but like halfway into your freshman season, you're going to threaten to leave, or you're going to put out those feelers, and Mike has to defend against that. Get out, let him go, and then ride with Brock, and then go into the portal. I can't trust that guy to lead a program if we're going down that road. Now, that's hearsay. I don't know if that's the case.
Okay, but I want to make it
very, very careful in this moment.
Yeah, and I want to make it abundantly clear, since I broached the subject, and it's not. I want to be clear here. I don't know that that's true. I don't know that that's happening at all. I just know coaches all around the country are dealing with a brand new day, and it's not good in college football. They're all having to re-recruit their roster every year. I don't like any of that. Either do you. We're both very forward-thinking when it comes to paying players and how this should have been done ages ago, and I wanted the transfer rules loosened a long time ago because coaches come and go whenever the hell they want, and kids were stuck after having committed to those guys, you know, having to sit out a year if they wanted to leave and all that. I didn't like it. But I will tell you that the way they've gone about this now, because the NCAA has no control and the courts have stripped the NCAA of any real authority, then – you know, at least in terms of player mobility and pay and all that stuff. which, again, I'm in favor of to an extent. I don't love the situation coaches find themselves in. They're paid handsomely. They got to get it done, whatever, boo-hoo. They'll cry themselves to sleep at night with their $10 million check. I got it. But I'm talking about it's untenable to create depth in college football. It's you're not capable if every kid that practices well or gets into a game as a freshman who you're trying to coddle because you're worried if they don't get into games that they're going to be disgruntled and want to leave. Yeah. So you do play a kid and he has a good day. He has 10 good plays. And now he's able to showcase that and say, do you want me? Because I'm not starting here next year and I'm pretty pissed off about it. And I've got to try to find a way to massage that situation over and over again because the rules are so lax that guys can just ride and there's no penalty. I hate it. I don't like that. And I think that's especially true if you're a quarterback. Quarterbacks want to play. And if you're a backup quarterback and the guy in front of you is a redshirt freshman, Tom, that makes this situation all the more difficult. It's not like Brock's a junior and he's a freshman.
Yeah.
Brock's a redshirt freshman. If Brock wins the job, barring him getting hurt, you're going to be on the bench for 3 years.
If you allow yourself to be held hostage by the fear of what could happen from a true freshman, then you're going to lose your program. That's no way to govern a program.
There is no way to govern a program, and it would be considered untenable if you have to deal with this, especially at multiple position groups. And when you're in the midst of a 1-5 season, these are the kinds of conversations that take place. Like, that's the problem. Like, if you're winning, if you're Kirby and you got a freshman quarterback that's frustrated that he's not getting on the field, well, go to hell. Have a good day, man. I'm trying to run a dynasty over here. There'll be a bunch of quarterbacks that want to play here. You have a good one, but you're 1-5. And this is where for lack of a better term, and I have nothing against the kids playing at FSU, so don't take this the wrong way, but this is where you have, the rats fleeing the sinking ship. This is where, like, all of a sudden everybody's running for the hills, looking after themselves. Like, this isn't going to – and so it makes it that much more difficult. I'm just describing a situation that I think becomes increasingly more difficult when you lose a bunch of games.
For sure. Everybody feels the pinch. And the good side of it is that everybody wants to help fix it. I do think there's a human nature to that where if I'm a true freshman like Luke, I might say, well, I can help you. I can do better than 1-5. So why don't you give me a crack and let me cut my teeth? And if you have a willingness to play, I like that. That is a characteristic that I do want. But the issue is, and maybe this is just about more messaging. Expectations have to be made very clear. For Luke, for Brock, for the fan base, like, you would be better served to say they're both going to play these next 6 games. And maybe Trevor gets in there too.
The reason we're even having this conversation has been how odd the messaging has been from Mike. Like, it's not just willy-nilly, we snatched this out of thin air. I mean, the fans all noticed that he was quick to always have some sort of caveat when discussing Brock, that there was always the Luke caveat. There was always this thing that he felt compelled to say about Luke when the question didn't have anything to do with Luke. The question was, how'd you think Brock played? And it was, how was Brock today in practice? And the next thing you know, somehow Luke's getting wrangled into this conversation. And that's why people were like, what gives here?